We have built the most comfortable life in human existence. We've got climate controlled rooms, the food can be delivered directly to your front door, entertainment can be accessed easily on demand, we've got artificial lighting that will keep you awake until well past midnight. We've engineered every possible reason to stay inside, and we are paying for it in ways that most people haven't quite connected yet. With things such as rising rates of depression, anxiety, obesity, vitamin D deficiencies, poor sleep, chronic inflammation, myopia in children, all those things, they aren't really random. They have a common thread that runs throughout them. And that thread is that we've almost completely disconnected ourselves from the environment that our bodies were built for. Going outside shouldn't just be a wellness trend or a nice addition to our daily routine. It is one of the most evidence-backed, zero-cost, immediately accessible tools for your physical and mental health that exists. And most people are barely using it. This video is about why you should start using the outdoors much more. Before we get into the specific benefits on both the mental side and the physical side, it is worth understanding something very fundamental, and that is your body wasn't really designed for the modern world. It is designed for the outdoors. For the vast majority of human existence, hundreds of thousands of years, every single day involved being outside. You woke up to natural light, you moved across varied terrain, you were exposed to fluctuating temperatures, exposed to fresh air, natural sounds, and the rhythms of the sun. Your nervous system, your hormonal system, your circadian clock, your immune system, all of it evolved in that context. The indoors is a place where humans spend the overwhelming majority of their time is an extraordinarily recent development, and the human body hasn't really caught up. When you step outside, you're not doing something extra. You're giving your body the baseline conditions that it was built to operate in. And when you don't, you're running a system in an environment it wasn't really designed for and wondering why it keeps on malfunctioning. Keep that in mind as we go through the benefits that I'm about to list out. So let's begin by looking at the mental health benefits that come from spending time outside. We'll start here as I think this is where the evidence is most striking and most underappreciated. So key benefit number one is that your stress and cortisol levels will reduce. Multiple studies have measured cortisol, which is basically the primary stress hormone, before and after you spend some time in natural environments, and the results are very consistent. Even just 20 to 30 minutes in a green space provides measurable drops in your cortisol levels. So a walk through the park lowers your stress response in a way that a walk on the treadmill in the gym simply will not replicate to the same degree. It's the natural environment specifically that is doing stuff for you, not just the movement itself. Japanese researchers have actually spent decades studying a practice called Shinrin-yoku, which translates roughly as forest bathing. It essentially just means spending some time in woodlands, and the research shows that it reduces your cortisol, it lowers blood pressure, decreases your heart rate, and reduces the activity in the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain associated with rumination and self-referential overthinking. Basically, what that means is that nature quiets down the mental noise. Rumination is worth dwelling on for a moment here because it is central to anxiety and depression. Rumination is the loop, the same worrying cycle through your mind, the same self-critical thought running on repeat. A Stanford study compared brain activity in people who walked for 90 minutes in a natural environment versus an urban environment, and the group who walked in nature showed significantly reduced activity in the subgenial frontal cortex, which is the specific region associated with rumination. Nature appears to interrupt the loop in a way that urban environments simply do not. Another element is attention restoration. There's a well-established theory in psychology called attention restoration theory, which proposes that the natural world demands a fundamentally different kind of attention than the modern world-built environments. Screens, traffic, notifications, deadlines, these all demand what is called directed attention, the effortful, focused kind that depletes with us. Natural environments, however, engage what's called involuntary attention, a softer, more effortless kind of noticing that allows directed attention to recover. Time in nature is essentially a recharge cycle for your focus and cognitive capacity. This is why you often come back from a walk with clearer thinking and better problem solving than you had before you left. A huge element to being outdoors, though, is mood and depression, and the data on this one is significant. Regular exposure to natural environments is associated with lower rates of depression across multiple large-scale studies. One analysis of over 290 million people found that people living in areas with more green space had meaningfully lower rates of depression, anxiety, and stress-related illnesses. Another study found that a 90-minute walk in nature reduced depressive symptoms more than the same walk in an urban environment, again linking back to the rumination finding we mentioned earlier. This isn't to say that nature is a replacement for clinical treatment of depression. It isn't, and if you do have serious levels of depression, then do seek the proper care and support, because help is always available. But as a preventative tool and as a complement to other forms of intervention, the evidence is genuinely quite strong. And then there's the elements that's hardest to quantify but probably the most real, which is your sense of perspective. There is something that happens when you're standing somewhere very big, whether it be a hillside or in a forest or on the coastline. The kind of place where you feel small in the best possible way. Psychologists call it awe, and it's being studied seriously. Experiences of awe in natural settings reduce self-focused thinking, increase feelings of connectedness, and have measurable effects on mood and well-being that persist for days. The problems that felt enormous when you were staring at a screen look very different after you've stood somewhere that dwarfs them entirely. So now that we've covered the mental benefits, let's take a look at the physical benefits, and there is quite a lot here, so let's get going. Vitamin D is the first one, and this one is foundational and worth going into properly because vitamin D deficiency is genuinely very widespread, particularly in countries such as the UK. If you live in the UK, you'll know it is grey most of the time. Vitamin D is produced in your skin in response to the UVB radiation from the sun. The problem is that the UVB doesn't actually penetrate glass, so even just sitting next to a window doesn't really help. It doesn't penetrate sunscreen at high SPF either, and it's only present in sunlight at the right angle in the UK, which roughly is April to September in the UK. And that is the window where the meaningful vitamin D synthesis is even possible. Vitamin D functions more like a hormone than a vitamin, and it influences hundreds of biological processes, including bone density, immune regulation, muscle function, insulin sensitivity, testosterone production, mood regulation, many more. Having a deficiency of vitamin D is linked to increased susceptibility to illnesses, fatigue, low mood, reduced athletic performance, and a higher risk of a range of chronic diseases. There's an entire video in vitamin D alone, and we'll do that one separately on the channel at a future point. For now though, the point is simple sun exposure is your most effective source, and it is free. Another thing though is sleep quality. Your circadian rhythm, which is your internal body clock, is calibrated primarily by light, specifically natural light in the morning. Exposure to bright natural light early in the day tells your brain that it's daytime, anchors your cortisol, awakening response, and sets a timer that triggers melatonin production in the evening. When you spend all day in artificial indoor lighting, which is typically 10 to 100 times dimmer than outdoor light even on a cloudy day, that signal is very weak and your circadian rhythm drifts. The result is poorer sleep onset, light sleep quality, and disrupted recovery. Something as simple as just going outside in the morning, even just 10 minutes, providing light signal strong enough to meaningfully anchor your circadian rhythm and improve your sleep that night. This isn't complicated, it's just severely underused. Next up is immune function, and there are a few mechanisms at play here. Moderate sunlight exposure has direct antimicrobial effects and supports the immune system through the vitamin D pathway that we've already mentioned. But there's also emerging research on the microbiome, which is the ecosystem of bacteria that your immune system depends on and its relationship with natural environments. Spending time outdoors, particularly in natural green spaces, exposes you to a greater diversity of environmental microorganisms, and this diversity appears to support a more robust and better regulated immune system. Children who grow up with regular outdoor exposure in natural settings have significantly lower rates of allergies and autoimmune conditions. The hypothesis supported by growing evidence is that we've become too sterile, too isolated from the microbial environment that we co-evolved with. Another major benefit is your eye health, and this one can surprise people. Myopia or short-sightedness has increased dramatically over the past few decades, and outdoor light exposure is one of the strongest known protective factors. Natural light is thought to stimulate the release of dopamine in the retina, which regulates eye growth and helps prevent the elongation of the eyeball that causes myopia. Studies in children have found that increasing outdoor time significantly reduces the progression of short-sightedness. The mechanism is specifically about light intensity. Outdoor light is simply far brighter than anything you can experience indoors, even on an overcast day. Another big benefit of going outside is cardiovascular and metabolic health. Spending time outdoors tends to mean that you're moving more, and movement outdoors on varied terrain is qualitatively different from movement on a flat treadmill. It recruits more muscles, demands more balance, and is generally more metabolically demanding. Beyond that, exposure to natural environments reduces blood pressure and heart rate through the stress reduction pathways that we've already covered. Some research suggests that forest environments specifically trigger a reduction in sympathetic nervous system activity, which is your flight or fight response, and an increase in your parasympathetic activity, which supports recovery, digestion, and cardiovascular health. And finally for now is cold and heat exposure. Being outdoors across different seasons will mean that you will encounter temperature variation and the evidence on hormetic stress, which is the idea that mild, manageable stresses make your body more resilient, which is a solid theory. Cold exposure increases norepinephrine, I'm probably mispronouncing that, which improves brown fat activity, and it has measurable effects on mood and metabolic rate, whereas heat exposure has separate benefits through heat shock proteins and cardiovascular adaptation. The body that spends all its time in a climate-controlled 21 degrees is a body that never gets the adaptive stimulus of temperature variation. So, here's what I want you to take away from this. The outdoors shouldn't really just be a leisure option. It shouldn't be something that you just do on weekends when the weather is nice if you feel like it. It should be the default operating environment for your biology, and time spent in it is time spent in conditions your body is specifically built to thrive in. You'll have better mental clarity, lower stress, reduced anxiety, reduced depression, better sleep, stronger immune function, you'll get more vitamin D, you'll have healthier eyes, you'll have lower blood pressure, you'll be moving more, which can obviously reduce weight now, so you'll feel better, and you'll have greater resilience to things. None of that requires any real equipment, none of it requires proper money, just money on shoes. And if you've got a job, I assume you've got a pair of shoes, maybe not. But like, you don't have to have shoes on. You can just go stand outside for a bit if you wanted. A walk outside, genuinely outside, not just to the car, is one of the highest return on investment things you can do for your health on any given day. It's why I personally love having a dog, because it makes me go outside to take the dog for a walk. However, we tend to live in a culture that sometimes overcomplicates health, with expensive supplements, optimized programs, biohacking protocols, and the most powerful thing most people could do is just go outside for 30 minutes a day and actually be there when they do it. Not on your phone, not rushing somewhere, just outside. Your body knows what to do with it. It's been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years. You just have to give it the chance to do its thing. And that is all for this video. So what do you think? Have you found this video useful? Let me know down below. If you've enjoyed this video, then be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button if you are new around here. That is all for now, so thank you for watching, and we'll see you later. Peace!